Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Vintage Motocross Radio. I'm your host, Joe Abadi. Today's show is brought to you by Vintco, keep the ride going. Preston Petty Products, the legend continues. AMSOIL, the first in synthetic oil since 1973. On Wednesday night, please remember to watch our show, Vintage Motocross Q&A. That happens every Wednesday live at 6 p.m. on Facebook. My guest this morning competed in the AMA Motocross Championships from 1972 to 1980, winning 22 AMA Nationals and 3 AMA National Championships during his career. He became the first American to defeat the international level riders in the Trans AMA Motocross Series and was also on the first American Motocross the Nations team in 72 and again in 1974. It's my pleasure this morning to have as my guest Jammin' Jimmy Weinert. Jimmy, are you with me?
Oh, Joe, am I with you all the way?
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here this morning, Jim. Did I interrupt your afternoon? What were you doing before you came on here?
Well, I was just getting some things ready to put a container in place so I could put some of my old stuff in it. And today's an easy day. We've been going pretty wide open, training a lot of kids for Loretta Lynn's Amateur National, which will be in about a week and a half. And so now it's a little downtime for me.
Okay, so
nice.
Jim, again, thank you. And one of the first things I want to ask you, because I was looking through your book, Living My Dream, and it mentions that your first motorcycle actually didn't have an engine. Tell me more about that.
Well, probably not many people know about that Italian bike. They call it the Runzoni, Joe.
No, I don't think they do.
Yeah, because it runs only when you push it.
What? This is typical jammer out of the gate. This is what I expected.
But anyway, no, my dad had a frame with some wheels on it and a seat, and I just pushed it all over the place and coasted down hills, and that was it.
And did it ever get an engine, Jim? Did you ever put one in there?
No, because I got strong enough to push it about 40 miles an hour, Joe.
Hey, was it your dad that actually introduced you to motorcycles? And were your brothers racers also?
Well, my dad was a racer himself back in the day with the old Indians, and he was the first Indian motorcycle dealer in New York City. And then they moved up to upstate Middletown, New York, where he continued with the little motorcycle shop. We sold Triumphs, Makos, CZs, Hodakas, and that's pretty much how it started. We had a little junkyard too, also, because that was always in his blood, the junk, you know.
Well, you know what, Jim? I remember you telling me, and not to get too far off the topic of too many things that I want to talk about, but you told me your father was a Lithuanian immigrant, one of 9 children, and that his thing about the scrap business, that actually got started along the railroad tracks in New York State, where he would collect stuff just to survive and buy money for food.
Well, that's true, because back in the day, you know, and I've heard many stories with my mom, you know, they went through the Depression of 29 and all that stuff, and it was, you know, it was tough for everybody. And you did whatever you had to do to eat.
Yeah.
And in order to survive. You know, not like the generation we have now, but we created this generation, so, you know, this is a product of us. But back in the day, we're a product of my parents, and
Sure.
It's slowly going away.
Yeah. Well, hey, Jim, let's get back to the bikes for a minute. In the late 60s, you were actually active more so in flat tracks and scrambles in New York State, and you became friends with another very colorful motorcycle racer named Gary Nixon. Tell me a little bit more about you and Nixon and your days together on the flat track scene.
Well, it all started to me riding around the junkyard, riding through the woods. I wanted to ride a motorcycle. I wanted to race. My dad had raced the flat track. My brother Albert raced flat track and scrambles. My brother Kenny did scrambles, and he went on to boxing. But we started out with scrambles, and you used K70 tires and universal trials. There was no, as a matter of fact, when my CZ came for my first race, we took the knobbies off and put smoother tires on, because that's what the scrambles tracks were. Up in New England, down in Pennsylvania, everywhere. That's how it was.
Yeah.
And then as it progressed, naturally, then we started going back to the knobbies and things. But I also did some flat tracking. Started on the half miles. We had a flat track right down the road from us in Middletown. But I got going, and how we got to know Gary Nixon. My dad was the Triumph dealer, like I said, and he used to pay Gary like $100 to come up to Middletown to beat the Harley Davidson guys, and he would stay at our house. So that's how that got going. Because back in the day with Triumph, BSA, Harley Davidson, that was big rivals,
Sure.
So all the dealerships, even though they knew each other, they were going to beat each other. So my dad would get Gary up here so he could go put the Harleys in their place.
And did you travel with Nixon a little bit? I mean, that was part of your deal throughout New England and New York.
Well, yeah, because once as we progressed, I started as an amateur expert. Won my first 22 out of 23 motos that year, from amateur right into expert. The last race of the year, there was a guy named Don Roan, and he had been the local expert guy. I had beaten him, but he ran me off the track that last race, and I got second. Then I learned a little bit about bumping and going.
Did you start jamming then, I guess, huh?
Yes, otherwise I would have won 23 in a row, undefeated for the whole year. But then with Gary, we went to a flat track down in Reading, and I had my brother's old 500 Triumph because my dad didn't know how much I'd like it. Mm-hmm. And Nixon knew all of us, and he seen my past with all the other racing. And he said, "Hey, you want to ride my bike?" And I said, "Yes." And well, I think what it really was if you let me race your bike, because I wasn't bashful, I'll give you all the money I win. And Nixon loved money. And you didn't win much back then. But yeah, I got on a 750 Triumph, and the rest was history. I won a lot of them too. Had a couple of good crashes on the flat track. And then we got our way into motocross.
Now, your dad was a CZ dealer. Is that how the CZ ride came about? And how did that progress from all of a sudden, you're doing flat track and then you're on this motocross bike? How did that work out?
Well, how it came about was, if you know who Joe Boulder was, from
yes,
Massachusetts,
I do.
Very, very famous guy.
Mm-hmm.
I was at the Cycle Sport. I read every magazine they had. We had Cycle Sport, and we had. Did we have Cycle News then yet? No, but anything we had, I read. Cycle Sport came out of New England with Bob Hicks. We were watching this Joe Bolger guy, reading about him all the time, and he was racing a Jawa CZ, which was precursor to the CZ, or the CZ as they would call it.
Yeah.
And so, because my dad said, check it out and see what all this is about. So I called him. Well, actually, I wrote him a letter, and then he gave me a very nice letter back, which he still has mine. I have his. And so my dad, we got the CZ champion dealership, and then my first bike he bought, and then after that, CZ sponsored me. I was very fortunate.
Now, CZ, how many years did you ride CZ before you got the Yamaha contract?
Well, we had Mako in between there.
Okay, yeah.
So I rode CZ until I rode Mako. God, that would probably be 71 going into 72. Because how I got the factory ride, I went down to Florida on the Mako. I stopped at Denny Moore, who was the Mako distributor in Pennsylvania. I had Aki Johnson's frame, and they put a 250 engine in it for me with a Grand Prix cylinder, and that thing was sweet, and it handled superbly. So I went down to the Florida series, and I just whipped all their asses, and then Yamaha hired me.
And that, as they say, is history. How long were you on that Mako, Jim? And what Very
better. I think I was probably on the Mako about a year. But, the first time Yamaha approached me, they said, well, what do you want to do? They didn't come and say, we would like to hire you for motocross.
Right.
I said, well, I'm doing the motocross. I'm doing some flat tracking, this and that, short tracking. And, they had Kenny Roberts at the time, so they definitely didn't need another flat tracker, did they?
No.
Not with Kenny Roberts.
No.
But anyway, long story short, the next time they asked me, I said, I want to be a motocrosser. And so I got that contract in 72, right before Daytona. And I didn't even get to practice on the bike, and I went out and won Daytona on it. And you want to talk about a transition from a European bike to the Japanese, which was a lot lighter. Power band was a lot different. It was like I was just bouncing all over the track, but I did win Daytona in '72 on it.
Now, back when you were with CZ, this is a pretty funny story. I think it is anyway. You're with CZ, and they wanted this hot shoe kid from Ohio, so they're going to fly him out to California, and they send you and I think Brad Lackey in a van to pick up this kid. And when he gets there, he's got a pro license, but some things aren't adding up really. His age, his experience, his identification. Do you recall who that kid was?
Yeah, Gary Simmons.
He didn't go into Gary Simmons though, did he?
Well, I don't remember the name. I know that he had a different name, but
yeah, he went under the name of.
Brad wouldn't even go with me. He said, you know how Brad? Yeah. Jim, you go take care of this. You got this, buddy. Okay. I don't know who the hell this kid is, and he comes over. He's a little farm boy, man. And Gary, he was just very shy and all. Oh, this is going to be good. And I picked him up, and then the rest was history. He just blended in with all of this because he was a good guy. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And had a cool little accent, and we had a lot of fun. But you'd be surprised how little shy, naive boys can blow your minds when you start doing things.
Yeah. Hey, Jim, you jumped back and forth, after the CZ days and whatnot. You jumped back and forth between Kawasaki and Yamaha like 4 times in your career. Was that really, it was a matter of money? Was it a matter of bikes, or were there some corporate egos involved there and you just scrambled out of there every time? What happened really?
Well, Yamaha hired me in '72. Mm-hmm. And there was tension between me and Don Jones and the boys and stuff. So Cowie wanted me, so I went with Cowie. But Don Jones was a great guy. Gary and his brother Dwayne, good people, but there was just tension there with the dad, and then Marty Tracy had some tension there also. Right. So I went over to Kawasaki in '73 and '74, and got the championship in '74 in the 450. Actually, it was a 400 with the open class, and then we were negotiating for '75, and it just seemed like Cowie, they wanted me, but this is going to sound funny, but we always had like ping pong tournaments in the back.
Yeah.
And they liked to play ping pong. And I kept saying, guys, come on, let's get this done, blah, 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 blah. So one time I said, look, if you don't want to get it done, I'm going to go over to Yamaha, and they're going to sign me. And I guess they didn't take me serious. And I went over to Yamaha, and they signed me.
All over a ping pong game.
Basically.
Hey, Jim, you've always been a vocal guy, and you always stood up for other riders as well. I found this interesting that, Pierre Kosmakers wins the '73 National Championship, and he's become kind of a threat to the American riders who were just really starting to get on their game. I mean, he might have even been called a cherry picker. AMA is not happy with non-American guys taking national points, and they create this rule that says people that are that are non-U.S. citizens can't get national points. You were a rider representative in '75. You were actually instrumental in getting that rule changed.
Yes.
Why did you find that necessary to have that rule revoked?
Well, the reason I wanted to get it in, they were making us faster, but I said they had to be here 2 years to get their license. So they just didn't come over 1 year, take everything, and leave. Mm-hmm. They'd had to stay. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so that's how that worked out. But I sure know Pierre used to piss off Brad. That's for sure. Yeah. they definitely weren't, in a romance. Let's put it that way.
That's from stories I've heard. That's very accurate. Hey,
yes.
Hey, Jim, just a little while ago, you mentioned the Jones boys and Marty Tripes, and I knew you were part of that group back then with number 66, 77, 88. What could you be a little more specific on the tension? Was Don Jones, was he a tough guy on the boys as far as making you guys practice and stuff? Where was the tension there?
Well, I think they got all the good stuff. Naturally, he had the big contract with Yamaha, but we were racing for Yamaha. It's just, that was the first year of nationals.
Okay. Yeah.
And it was a split series. Well, I say split. They had somebody out in the West and they had somebody back East, but we didn't know if you rode them all, it was going for a championship. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
But Don had that all figured out. I mean, he was smart. That's why they came East, and then Gary had more points than anyone else. That's why. And I think I wound up second in that the championship. If I remember, I'm not quite sure. But
yes.
Who knows? I could have been a champion in that one too. But it was just little things like that. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do. I do.
And Don, he was a I won't say tough, but strong-minded, very, very strong-minded, and it was for him and his boys, and but it worked well. I mean, they did look at the success they brought to Yamaha.
Yeah, I mean, it was phenomenal what they did with the YZ
and to Honda and to Can-Am.
Yeah.
So Don was a very, 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 very clever guy. He can make bikes go fast.
Hey, is it? Do I remember correctly that one of the parts of your Yamaha contract one year said something about you actually had to have a guitar, or they had to supply you with a guitar?
Yeah. When I was signing with Yamaha, right at the end they go, is everything else? Is there anything else you want? And I'm thinking, I said, yeah, I want a guitar. So they brought a catalog out because, at that time everything was in one building. And I picked one out and they went back and got it. And I still have that to this day.
When did you first become interested in playing guitar? When did that happen?
Oh, that's back when I was like 14, 15, 16.
Something that you did in school, or?
No, just something you do. My dad used to take me for lessons and stuff.
Oh. You don't have that guitar nearby right now, do you?
No, not right yet. It's I don't even know if it's tuned. I know you want a song.
Well,
it's funny. The AMA called me up. I don't know how many years ago, 5, 6, 7, 10. Who knows what it is? And they said, "Would you like to put that guitar in the museum?"
Uh-huh.
I said, "Hell no." So, are you crazy?
So
every time I'd want to play it, I'd have to go to Ohio. But anyway, no. So I said, "This is the closest you're going to get to it," and I did sing them a song.
Jim, you were, Kawasaki Yamaha. You went back and forth. In your last year, there was a Can-Am. I'm not really, I'm not going to ask you much about the Can-Am, but I do want to know of the Yamahas and the Kawasaki's, which one you liked the best, which one you were most comfortable on, which one really you needed the least when it got out of the box.
Oh, that's Kawasaki.
Yeah.
Like the Can-Am had a good engine, but the frame design was a little to be desired, and the 250 that was good, but the 370 that needed some work, and that's the one I rode.
And
it didn't have enough for the open class. But I was with Andy Colby. He was a great guy out of California. He had a Honda dealership, and they had also a Honda car dealership, and he helped me out tremendously. And but it just wasn't enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, of all of them, the Cowie was the best out of the box.
Boy, yeah, them things. In '76, when the Cowies came out, when I had signed with them, before that the 250s, we still had 450s. Then they came out with a 380, which I thought was fantastic. Brad didn't like it because he liked the bigger bikes. He liked them. But I still think if they would have kept going with that thing, they would have had one hell of a machine.
Right.
Well, they always did, but because when they came out with that 400, man, that thing was something else. Oof. That was a oof.
That good. Hey, with the time you were with Cowie, you had the 250 Supercross Championship. You had, of course, a national championship too. What possessed Kawasaki to ever ask you to try and ride a 125?
Well, I kind of did that myself. We had about 5 or 6 weeks off, and I said, "Hey, can I go race the 125 so I could, stay in shape and stay sharp?" And they agreed to it. But then the problem was I did so damn good on it. I'm out there battling with Hannah and the guys, and then they wanted me to race it the next year, and I said it's impossible because I can't get that light.
Yeah.
Nowadays I got down to 155 pounds, but back then the bikes aren't like they are now. You know, I could probably have been 160, 65 and be competitive on one, you know?
Yeah.
Now, but back then, it was rough. Matter of fact, the first race I did, I think it was I think it was Illinois, Indiana, Illinois, and I'm battling with Hannah, and I run out of gas, like 2 laps to go. So I come in and talk to Steve Johnson. I said, so let me get this straight. I'm going to go back out there again. I'm going to be battling with Hannah or leading this thing, and I'm going to run out of gas. And he goes, probably so. Because it was a sand track, and you had to keep the things wide open.
Right. Did it run out of gas the second moto too?
You know, I don't think I don't remember, but I know it did in the first one.
Yeah.
I probably backed it down a little bit so I wouldn't run out of gas. You know.
Yeah, I do.
But I raced a bunch of them. Matter of fact, if you asked Brock Glover, he brought this up to me once. He said, by me riding them 125s and taking all the points away from the other guys, it helped him get his first championship. I go, really? No shit.
Hey, Jim, you know, you just spoke about Steve Johnson, and you had some other really, really good legendary mechanics along the way with Jojo Johansson, Paul Turner, Bill Butchka. Did you always click with your mechanics, or was there one you liked a little bit better than the other, or how was that relationship?
No, I got along with all of them. And the first one was Paul Nyland.
Oh, okay.
And he was fun. I think he was from Texas or something, but he was a great guy too. And as a matter of fact, right now he climbs those big towers.
He climbs.
I go, man, you're crazy. Maybe part of it, I don't know. I don't remember. But no, I had him and JoJo and Jim Felt. You know, Jim Felt went on to build and design some serious mountain bikes. You know? Yes. And then I had and Steve. Then Steve came in, and then I had Roy Turner. Which, Roy was. I called him my man scientist. He was pretty cool. Him and his wife Barbara. And then at the end, I had Dennis Lusardi, because Gary Mathis, good old Gary, came in and took Roy right away from me. He was messing with the whole team, and
was he part of?
Basically, that's he messed with the wrong guy. You know what I mean? He was trying to mess with all the secretaries, mechanics, and all that stuff. You're not doing your timesheets right. It was a crazy thing, and he was going to change it around. As a matter of fact, he told me once in the office, and he was probably right. He goes, "There's no way that you did everything that you've done, my extracurricular activities, and still won 3 championships." And I looked at him and I went, "But I did."
Yeah.
So anyway, him and I had a very strained relationship, and but he went with a Honda and had great success over there. But he didn't fit into the Kawasaki mold. Kawasaki mold, we were just a little bit looser spirit and everything. You know what I mean?
I do.
But then I told him we had this big meeting coming up, and it was 1980. We were at Daytona, and I couldn't ride my 79 no more because the unit track. I had to race the unit track, and it was slow. They wouldn't let us do nothing to it. Wouldn't let Roy do nothing, and Roy could have made that thing scream. Long story short, I get the jump off the gate at Daytona, and I get passed by 6 or 7 guys going into the first, way before the first turn. Mm-hmm. And that don't make you feel good, So I think I wound up about 6th that day. Anyway, so when I came off the bike in the pits, and then I started getting yelled at, and they said, "You told everyone our bike is slow." I'm going, like I had done some interview somewhere. How did I know it's slow until I really raced it? So I looked down and I said, you're right. I did tell people. I showed 75,000 people today that our bike was slow, because when I came off the line with that piece of shit, I got passed by 6 or 7 guys out dragging me to the first turn. Yeah, I did. So we had a big thing. So when I got back to California, we had a big meeting. And I told Roy Turner, when I come out of that meeting, you're going to be the team coordinator. He looked at me and said, "Don't worry about it. Just." So I went into that meeting. Boy, it wasn't pretty. It wasn't pretty for Gary Mathis, because I just told him like it was, And the Japs didn't want me to quit and all that. So the Japanese guys said, "Oh, Jim-san, you don't quit." I said, "Look, I can't be here with this guy, and he's taking everything away from me.
Mm.
I said, you make Roy Turner the head of this team, and you'll have success. Now, nationally, I was talking pretty big, you know.
Sure.
Roy heard everything I said, and he probably would have shit his pants. But as history prevails, he gave them about 23 championships, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. And,
you know, with the team. So every time I did things with Kawasaki, they saw that things usually turned out that way, and it's pretty cool. As a matter of fact, do you remember that gas crisis we first had back in '74?
of course.
Yeah. Well, that at the end of right before that, they said to me, I said, well, I signed first, and Brad didn't get signed, and none of the guys, because Calio was going to have one guy. So that's why Brad chose definitely to go to Europe right then and there full time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But anyway, and they didn't keep no one else. And I said, hey, guys, Yamaha still kept all their riders, Honda, Suzuki, and you just got me. I said, not that I need a teammate to help me win, but it's nice to have someone to talk to,
Yeah.
you know. But anyway, and they looked at him and they go, oh, Jim-san,
And?
only take one guy to win championship.
Yeah, and they wanted that guy to be you, and that was it, huh?
And I looked at them and I said, oh, you're so right. And I won the championship.
Yeah.
So I think that's why Calio had just, you know, a couple riders, because only take one guy to win the championship.
Yeah. You know, I want to share with the listeners for just a second. It was actually the first time I'd met you. I was only 14 the first time, and you were the first guy to give me an autograph at Unadilla, 1974, and I never forgot that. But fast forward from 1974 to 2001, I got involved in the vintage game, and I built this 75 YZ360, and I called it a Weinert replica. Whether it was or not, I don't know. Anyway, I knew you lived in Middletown. I lived in New Jersey, and I loaded that bike up on the back of my truck one day, came and found you at Weinert Recycling, not knowing, you know, if you're going to be there or not. And there's Jimmy Weinert in this crane, and he's tearing up all sorts of scrap, and he's got a Motocross Fox hat on. All I want you to do is look at the bike, maybe sign the gas tank, and I'm going to get out of your hair because you're obviously a busy guy. It was a cold day. It was November. I show you the bike, and we start to talk, and you said to me, you want coffee? It's cold out here. Let's go in here by the stove. Jimmy Weinert took me in there that day and talked to me for 2.5 hours. I was a complete stranger. And I just wanted to say, Jim, that I'll never forget how special you made me feel that day. And what a great person you were, a great personality. And I just wanted to, it's not the end of the interview. I just wanted to throw that in there to let people know how we met and what kind of a guy you were to a complete stranger that day.
Well, I appreciate that. That's just how I am. And, you know, and as my wife always says, you like to talk, Jim.
Yeah.
That's why we don't like to go anywhere with you, because it takes you 2 hours to go 10 feet.
hey, Jim,
and my son too goes, oh, I'm not going with you. Oh, hell no. You know.
Yeah.
But it's nice to reminisce and talk to certain people and this and that. Now, right now in my training camp, you know, JWTF training facility down in Maysville, North Carolina, which is run by myself, my wife, and my son James.
Mm-hmm.
And without Linda, I gotta tell you, she's a hell of a woman. She keeps me straight. She's my rock, you know. And we've been married 24 years now, going on 25, and it works.
Now,
you know why, Joe? You know why it's lasted that long?
Tell me why.
Because finally,
yeah,
you know, we've been through 2 marriages apiece. Finally, I learned to say, "Yes, dear, it works."
You know how I look at it, Jim. I think you finally found a gal that deserved you. That's why.
Yeah. Or let you go one ear and out the other, you know.
Yeah.
And then, you know, we'll get into things, and I say, "Dang, you're right." And she goes, "Well, aren't I usually?" So I think I met my match. Okay. Met my match.
Hey, Jimmy, while we're talking about the training facility, how long have you been there now, and how many kids do you train a month? Let's talk about that a little bit.
Well, that varies, but probably throughout the year, God, if you add them all up, 300.
Okay.
And that's quite a few, you know what I mean?
It is. It is. Now, do you have sleeping arrangements there for the families and stuff? How does that all work? What kind of a
Wait,
operation is it?
what was that last question?
I said, what kind of an operation is it there to
Oh,
where you have families that, do you have cabins they can stay in or do they
okay, yeah.
camp?
Well, yes, okay. We have cabins they can stay in. We have a bathhouse, nice bathhouse. We have laundry facilities for them.
Mm-hmm.
We have a nice chair.
Jim, you there? Jim. All right, let's just stand by for a second. I've been disconnected with Jimmy Weinert right during our interview. He's talking about the Jim Weinert training facility. So I'm going to get Jim right back on the phone, and we'll continue on with the interview.
Hello.
Jammer, I lost you.
Yeah, I'm here.
You were telling me about the facilities there. You've got showers, you've got cabins. What else?
We have 36 hookups for the motorhomes.
Mm-hmm.
We have a full-on gym. We got laundry facilities for them to use. We have porta potties also out. You know, if you're just riding the bike, they're out there.
Sure.
We have about 5 or 6 tracks. I'm always making something different. We just set up a nice Loretta Lynn's training track with the commandments and stuff, and that was a huge success this year. And then we have our main track that everyone loves because I make it for everyone. You know what I mean?
Yes.
We got turn tracks. We got the pro playground that has some real big jumps in it. But that's for the guys that, that they have to do that for the nationals,
Yeah.
So we got a little bit of everything.
Let's get back to racing a little bit, Jim. It seemed that you and Tony DiStefano had some great battles. The cover of your book has perhaps one of the most legendary photographs in all of motocross history. When did the DiStefano-Weinert battle really begin? When did you guys start to really bump heads?
Well, you want to know what's funny? I'm sitting in my recliner here in the man cave, and I got a picture of me and Tony. I'm looking at us right now.
Yeah.
And that was in Ohio, Highland, Ohio, 1974. And that's the day that I first won my first championship.
Yes.
We were battling all along. Tony's the kind of guy, if you heard him behind you, he was going to upshift. You'd hear him coming and turn and go, oh, God, here he comes again. So you didn't know. But he could ride, you know what I mean? The boy could ride.
Oh, no question about it.
But
we
had a lot of battles.
But that one that day, it's amazing how it just happened to be captured in that one corner, and it spoke volumes. And yeah, I did. I only recently learned while doing the research for this that was a day that you won a national championship, the same day that picture was taken.
Yep, Tom Morley, right? Is it Tom?
Yes, Tom.
Yeah, Tom Morley. He just happened to be in that corner, and voila. And then he also got pictures because after that corner coming out, I fell.
You fell on the next lap, or Tony fell on the next lap?
Well, no, I fell coming out of that corner.
Oh,
so you see that picture?
Yes.
I don't know how much further, maybe another 20, 25 feet. I fell. And then when I came around the next lap, Tony was sprawled out in that corner.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, thank you, Lord. That was nice. And but I was figuring he said, I got the jammer now, and if you lose concentration, that corner got him the next time, you know what I mean?
I do know. I do. Now, with that picture, there's probably only one thing that really eclipses that picture in your career, and that's got to be the paddle tire 1979 Oakland Coliseum. You roll out with this paddle tire, and you're wearing a neck brace. How'd that all come about, Jimmy? And may I say before you answer, I have recorded Brad Lackey's answer to how all that transpired.
Brad is hallucinating, okay?
He's hallucinating. Okay, Jimmy, you've got the floor. Tell me what happened.
I hope Brad's listening right now. But anyway, Roy Turner called me up. It was a Wednesday, I believe. He was up there already, and I'm down there in Laguna Beach where I live. Mm-hmm. And he goes, Cameron, it's all sand up here. It's all sand. We're going to run a paddle tire. I go, Well, Roy, what have you been smoking, boy? What are you guys doing up there? You know?
So Lackey
And
brought you. Did he bring you? He brought this paddle tire to the track.
no. And that's why Brad just wanted to be a part of my success. And he's my buddy. We travel all over the country, and I went to Europe with him a little bit. But Roy got it down there by Anaheim or where they were down there, Santa Ana. And he put it on, and so I get up there.
Yeah.
I look at this thing, and I go, holy shit, Roy, what the hell is that? He goes, boy, I psyched you out. I go, well, it's not good to psych me out because I got to ride this thing. So I took it down to practice, and you couldn't ride it on the pavement because it bounced my neck. Well, let's go to the day before. Kawasaki wanted to do a few little shoots with me. So I was on the track, and I went to go with these triples. And the first one was low, second one was a little higher, and the third one, I thought I could just get over all of them.
Yeah.
And I stuffed my neck. Oh man, it hurt bad. But Brad called Dino. You know Dino.
His trainer, yeah.
Yeah, Dean Miller.
Yeah.
He came over and massaged me all up, gave me 4 aspirin, told me to drink 2 beers, and he made me the very first neck brace ever out of a Holiday Inn towel, surgical tape, and a shoelace.
So you injured your neck in the whoops the day before?
Yeah, it was just Coward wanted to do some photograph stuff. So anyway, now we get to the race there.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny. Like I said, I looked at that damn thing. I went, damn. So we went down. We had to push it down there because, first of all, my neck was sore, and it was really hard to ride that thing, on the pavement.
Sure.
Bouncing all over. So I was doing starts, and I was in the first turn. They were halfway down the chute. And this is pretty good. But I still wasn't 100% convinced, so I told Roy, put the regular tire back on. I went down, did some starts. I said, put that damn paddle tire back on. So we put that paddle tire on, and the rest was history, But, what was ironic, the day of the race, I was sitting in the restaurant in the morning having breakfast, and I remember Larry Huffman was interviewing everyone except me.
Why is that?
Well, because, I was just making a comeback in '78, and who knows with Larry Huffman at the time, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. The mouse. So he was a great announcer. So I walk up to him. I was leaving. I said, Larry, I think you made a mistake. You didn't interview the winner. He looks at me. Well, let me get. I said, no, it's too late. So I left. And lo and behold, I won the race. And then after the race, they tried to disqualify me. They wanted to disqualify me for running this paddle tire.
Yeah.
We're down there in the middle of the stadium trying to, get the trophy and all this, and the AMA's there with their rule book, and old Tim Smith and Roy was there, and myself, a few other people, and the AMA people, and they had their rule book out. I said, well, sure, but we can't run a paddle tire. Well, there was nothing in that book about running a paddle tire. Well, it's a retread. Well, show us that we can't run a retread. Nothing in the book. There was nothing in the book about that at all.
Right.
And I said, get the hell out of here. Leave us alone. Now, it's funny, the Dunlop guy come up, can I put a sticker on your bike? I said, get the hell out of here. You didn't want me before. It might have been a Dunlop casing, who knows. But the next day, I believe, it was banned.
And that was the end. Yeah.
I went there too,
Yeah. So the neck brace thing, see, that puzzles me because Brad's story is a little bit different. Something about a car, a little rollover accident, but maybe I got it wrong.
No, you didn't get it wrong. That was a different year.
It was a different year?
That was down in, what was that? He was riding Honda. I was still in Cali, actually. And we were down after Saddleback. We were at the Gillen's place. They had a party. We were all pretty buzzed.
Yeah.
The Cali guys said, "No, we want you guys to fly up to Frisco for the Livermore race and do PR." And I said, "Man, we're just enjoying the race now. We did good, blah, blah, blah. We don't need to go up there. We're not in too good a shape."
Okay, yeah. Now it's making sense. Yeah.
So we finally get up there. They probably shouldn't even let me on the airplane, if you know what I mean.
I do.
And I woke up there with those big Disneyland sunglasses that are about like 2 foot wide, on. And it was probably, we got the last flight, and we get up there, and the one person taking the ticket said, "We waited for you guys." I said, "Hey, we didn't want to go." But anyway, so me and Brad, we get up there, we're at his house. We got rental cars, and we're going up and down this hill, and we went further up, and then it caught, and it rolled.
Yeah.
And Brad and I are very lucky that we're still here. But I had to go to the hospital. I was banged up, my neck and bad. And, so I couldn't race that weekend. And Brad and them, a bunch of them came to the hospital and just stole me out of there, put me in a wheelchair and took me out of there.
So
and I said, "You got to win." And even though he was on the Honda, I said, "You got to win."
yeah.
And he did win that race, from what I remember. His leg, he had a big knot in his leg. And that's how that came about. But that was a whole different year. And
okay. Now, the story's all jive now. It's just that it was 2 different years. Okay. Yeah, it's making sense now. Now I've got it on the record 2 times. Hey, Jim,
right.
you got a birthday coming up, August 14th, and you'll also be celebrating another milestone on August 8th. You turned your life around. You turned your life around in 1991. What actually happened August 8th, 1991?
Well, August 8th, 1991, I said, I got to get sober.
Uh-huh.
I got myself in a little situation, and it wasn't me, it was all because of drinking and all that shit. And so I went to my first AA meeting and went for 7, 8 years, hit it hard and heavy, and now we're 29 years sober.
Congratulations.
Every year is a championship with that,
It certainly is. It certainly is, Jim. And, while we're on that, Gary Mathers said something, and you had a little bit of a reputation of partying, but yet still bringing results. Was there ever a time where you actually, you got into a race, the race ends, you do pretty well, but you're thinking to yourself, I could have really won if I didn't do what I did last night? No?
No, because I didn't drink. I mean, I might have had a couple beers the night before, but there's only been a couple times in my career where I got stupid.
Right.
But I still, okay?
Yeah.
But I never had one where I said, "Oh, shit." You know what I mean?
Yes. Well, that's, you knew your limitations, but even when they got out of hand, you knew it was time to get some help.
Deal with all that.
Mm-hmm. What about...
I didn't know.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead, Jimmy. Again, I'm sorry, you were breaking up. Say it again.
I didn't know I was an alcoholic.
Oh, you didn't know?
And obviously I was a functional alcoholic. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
But I knew when and when not to, but still. So if I had a couple of extra beers that night before, that was nothing because of me being an alcoholic.
Yeah.
Now, people that are not, they have a little too much to drink, they're shot the next day. It'd be business as usual for me, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. And that's what makes it, yeah.
Matter of fact, one time the team managers had me out, and boy, we were all screwed up, right? So I win the race the next day, and them poor guys had a hard time scoring. They were miserable. So I went over to them after the race and said, "Hey, we should do that good again, guys. You brought me good luck." They just looked at me, and you know what they said to me? Like, "F you, Weinert."
Hey, Jimmy, do you watch Supercross? Do you enjoy watching Supercross today?
I watch everything. I'm still hooked with it, and I follow it very closely.
Yeah. Would you change anything about it? Do you think the courses are too demanding, a little too dangerous? How do you feel about that?
I think some of the things they put in are getting a little sketchy because these guys and these kids are so talented now.
Mm-hmm.
And I see it firsthand when I'm training all these young kids coming up, and they're like acrobats. They just adjust, they adapt, they can come up with things. Naturally, if we had that stuff back in the day, we would have had to do the same thing, but we didn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It all just what's the word I'm looking for? Evolution. It just kept going.
Yeah, the tracks got more demanding, the bikes got better, and now the riders are training even harder.
But yes, exactly. They rip the tracks up so damn deep. But the racing I see now sometimes with the nationals, they rip them so big. It's like slot car racing, and it's tough on them guys. They really can't go as fast as they want. They can only go as fast as those deep ruts allow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they're going. They work hard. It's tiring. Um, you'll see like a couple times at the races, Unadilla. There's been other places where they thought there was going to rain that night, and they didn't rip those tracks. Then the tracks, well, they were very fast, but they didn't have all them big ruts, so it's different type of racing. We had rough tracks. Hell, when we raced Unadilla, Ward Robinson, who's the promoter at the time, and now his daughter and Kim, I think it is, right? Kim and Craig, they run it. The tracks are so rough, and you can ask Brad and anyone. We'd get there, the grass was 3 or 4 foot high.
Yeah.
We had to go around very easy, pat it down. Matter of fact, I saw someone's been putting a lot of pictures when they had the Grand Prix and some nationals there. You see all the grass all over the track. But we had to pat it down because there were some serious bumps, coming up that one uphill.
Yes.
That one uphill. That was like doubles all the way up there. That thing was no like it is now. We'd come down that hill, up through there. It was stupid. But it was stupid for everyone because the track's the same for everyone.
Yeah. I follow you on that. Hey.
Different types of racing,
Yeah.
And these young kids say, hey, how the hell did you ride them things back then? I said, you guys went fast on them. I go, yeah, but it was all relevant. That's what we had at the time, and that's what we wanted to go fast on. But we definitely had to pick, some real good lines. Because if not, you get bucked over the handlebars or get whipped off the bike,
Sure. Yeah, it was just, and you know what, Jim? Maybe when you got started or Brad got started, or maybe it was 1975, 76. I mean, when you look back and you saw guys like, whether it's Paul Fredericks or even the Joe Robert era or Sten London, I mean, these guys are wrestling monarchs that weigh 350 pounds with solid pegs. I mean, you had to think to yourself, how did they do it?
Oh, I knew how they did it.
Well,
they were animals.
Yeah.
Them guys were?
Yeah.
Rolf Tiblin.
Yeah.
He was no joke. Did you ever get to meet him?
I have never met Rolf Tiblin. No.
He was a big boy. Yes, Brad, he's a big boy. Okay?
Yeah.
But Joel, he was strong. Roger, them guys were strong. Because when we started racing with them guys, we were kids. They were already 25, 26 years old with championships under their belts.
Yeah.
But we came on strong. But Brad and I go back, I think we started on 69 with the old Trans Ams and Interams and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I met him and Ron Stockman and Carl Crank and God, so many of them from Northern California. But Brad and I just hit it off for some reason. We're two different personalities, but we had a lot of fun. We went all over. Traveling to motorhomes together and Buns and his wife Lori and
Sure.
my wife at the time, and we've seen a few miles together.
Jim, you've had so many great friendships over the years, photographs of you, of course, in so many magazines and in the history books, and everyone seems to have a great Weinert story, and they've always got something to talk about. One relationship I wanted to ask you about in particular, if you were to see them today, would you actually call them Caitlin, or would you just have a conversation without saying a name?
Oh, you're so funny.
I don't know how you would approach that. And you seem to know the guy really well. You were almost in business together, I think. You're advertising. How would you handle that, Jim?
I met Bruce when he had just won the Olympics up in Montreal.
Yeah.
I was on Superstars, which was down in Rotunda, Florida, and they put him in to be a commentator. And I didn't know he was into bikes, so I just got finished winning the rowing or something. And I see this big guy coming up in the suit. I go, oh, God, what'd I do? I'm probably going to get disqualified. And if I'm Bruce Jenner, I didn't know who the hell he was. I didn't know what he just did. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
In my motorcycle world. And then we just got talking and we became friends because he liked dirt bikes.
Yes.
And we did a lot of stuff together, a lot of stuff. And then, just recently, as we all know, he's now Caitlin, and I haven't got to talk to him since then, but he changed numbers and stuff. But to each their own. Everyone has their own reason for doing things, but
yeah,
still love to talk to him.
Hey, I couldn't pass up the opportunity to ask you a question about it, and it was a good answer because I did wonder where you guys met, and it was at the Olympics. And I do, of course, remember him. I think he was also a commentator a bit on Wide World of Sports at some races and stuff like that. So you've really run the gamut and covered all the bases. Jim, is there anything I haven't asked you about that you'd like to take some time to talk about?
Well, you haven't asked me what I'd like for my birthday.
All right, Jim, what would you like for your birthday?
Well, that'll be another year of sobriety, yeah.
Yeah, well, you're doing that, boy. You put a lot of laps in with the with the sobriety thing. And what are you going to be? 69 years old this year? 68?
Yeah, 69.
69 this year.
69, man.
All right. My guest this morning has been Jammin' Jimmy Weinert. Jimmy, I want to thank you for taking the time to speak to me. Wish you an early happy birthday. Blessings to you, Linda, and your family. And that about wraps it up for us today, Jim.
Well, hey, it's been great. It's been good. And as I said to you when I used to see you at the races.
Yeah. See you at the... We'll see you at the races, Jim.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, brother. My guest this morning has been Jammin' Jimmy Weinert. I want to thank all of you for listening this morning. And once again, I want to thank all of our sponsors, Vintco, Keep the Ride Going, Preston Petty Products, The Legend Continues, Amsoil, the first in synthetic oil since 1973, and Vintage Motocross Q&A every Wednesday at 6 o'clock here on Facebook. Next Sunday, my guest will be Chris Carter. Chris Carter next Sunday. I hope you can join me then. Till that time, be well.